Okay, where's Mother Needle? Here we go. So now I'm going to trade up to, I have my cast on with size 6, which is a size smaller than the yarn recommends. Now I'm going to change over to size 7. This is the way I hold my yarn. Okay, the first stitch is going to be a knit stitch. Okay, so on this side, the mint color is the knit. And I hold my yarns, put both of them over my pinky like that. Now the front yarn on this side is the mint. The first stitch is mint. I'm going to put that over my middle finger. And then I'm going to put both strands of yarn over my index finger and use my knuckle as a divider. Okay? So now it's ready to begin. So with this first stitch, even though they are twisted under here, underneath, see how they're twisted underneath? Still want to make sure when I work this stitch, let's see how it looks, if they're still together. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So I'm going to put this back over here. Pardon me. So the first stitch is going to be a knit. And what we're actually doing is we're going to knit. Here's our pattern. Here's our little swatch. And we have our cast on down here. And then we have 2 more rows without any color changes. Okay? So that means we're going to knit mint all the way across, and we're going to purl orange all the way across on this side. Now, both yarns are in the back. Knit that first stitch, bring both yarns to the front. Purl the orange. Okay, both yarns to the back. Grab whichever color you need. In this case, it's mint. Both yarns to the front. Purl. I'm going to do that all the way across. Bring them to the front. Purl with that color. And if I grab one like I did just then I just tighten it up on the tail. Okay, both yarns to the back, knit. Both yarns to the front, purl. And if you look at the base of your cast on, you can see that looks like a knit. That looks like a purl. Yarns in back, knit. Yarns in front, purl. You can do that all the way across this first row until you get to the last stitch, which is actually 2 stitches, but your last stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do the selvage. Be back in just a minute. Oh, thought you might as well watch. I'll zoom in a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we have our slip knot and our last 2 stitches, our last stitch. This is our selvage, okay? Now, the way we're going to do these, this is a slipped stitch selvage edge that I like, okay? We're going to slip this one, and then we're going to bring whatever color this is. This will always be orange. Going to bring it over the top. See how they're crossed over one another? And then we're going to slip that one also. And then we can let that slip knot fall off. Or drop our needle. Okay. Now, the edge that's going to give us, let me get our little sample here. It's going to give this nice little edge right here. You can see it better with yellow. It's a slipped stitch selvage, okay? Meaning the stitches are only worked every other row. And the way that we'll be doing it is they will be worked at the beginning of every row and slipped at the end of every row. Now, picking up the yarn again. The first stitch is orange. Okay, now you will see that your yarns are backwards. Okay, this is the orange side cast on and the mint's in front. And this is the green, the mint color back here, but the orange yarn is back there. But our first stitch is an orange and it's a knit. So the yarn is actually where we need it to be. It's in back. However, I'm going to get my yarn the same as I always do. I'm going to have both over my pinky, the first stitch color over my middle finger, both over my index finger. Okay, even though this one's in front, it's fine. And we're going to knit that first stitch and purl the second. And see how that's locked in, how that green is locked in right there. And that keeps those 2 stitches together, both yarns to the front, and then purl the second. And then, as I said, we have 3 rows that are nothing but no color changes. So on this side, we'll have mint purls and orange knits. And then we'll begin the chart as soon as we finish this row. And I will fast forward to the end of the row so you can see those selvages again. Okay, we're at our selvage. Okay, so what we're going to do, both yarns to the back. I'm going to slip the first one, and then we're going to bring, because this is going to be a knit when we turn our work around, we're going to bring that up and over the other yarn. And then we're going to slip that stitch also. Bravo, I know you're not having a crisis. Okay, and then yarn. This is the green. Bravo, enough. Thank you. Okay, and on this side, both yarns over the pinky, green up over the middle finger, both over the index. Okay, let's get our chart. Okay, now with flat, oops, there we go. Okay, with flat, be going back and forth. Okay, now it just so happens with this chart that it's symmetrical. Okay, it really wouldn't matter whether or not you went back and forth. However, it is a good habit to go back and forth. Now, like I said, I hold my yarn, okay, in this manner with the first knit stitch, okay? And if you look at the way that I'm holding it, it's at the top. And then the contrasting, the background purl stitch colors, okay, is at the bottom. Whenever I am doing charts, often they really won't have a tonal difference, okay, in the charts. Like this is black and white, but there won't be much of a tonal difference, and it can be very confusing if you have yarn colors, if I were working in black and white, for instance, if I were working in black and white yarns and I came around to do this row, these are actually, when I'm going from this side, doing the side that's primarily black, all of these would be black, one white, two black, one white, and so on. And then whenever I'm going back this way, they would match the chart. However, what I have found is if I hold my yarn in this manner, then whenever I'm doing this, whichever happens to be lighter, okay, that's my top yarn, lighter on top. This is my bottom color, or my bottom yarn. So it's going to be the darker one. So it won't matter which side I'm working on, okay? Because if we were over here, okay, if I were about to start the row over here, that means, I'm just going to slide these to the other end of my needle demonstration. Okay. If I were starting over here, but my yarns were positioned in this way, I were on the other side, the orange tonally is darker. However, the way I would be holding my yarn, because this side is primarily the orange side, and my first stitch is orange, okay, I would be holding my yarn like this. And what would happen then, if I were going across, it would be all of these whites, they wouldn't be white, they would be top. Top yarn is orange. This is the bottom, and the darks are bottoms. See if that's helpful to you. It's immensely helpful to me because sometimes I get into some pretty intricate patterns and maybe the colors, okay, for instance, whenever I do things like this, okay, whenever I do something like this, I turned it around, let's say the first time that I did it, okay, let's say the chart looked like this. It was complete opposite, lights and darks, whenever I did it this way, okay, and so then it can make a really big difference. So it can be confusing, but by holding the yarn the way that I do, it's not confusing at all. Light is top, dark is bottom. And so it doesn't matter which direction I'm going in or which side I'm working on because I have my top and bottom yarns, how they're positioned on my hand. Okay, and a break for Bravo. Okay, here we go. And I did check, and the dog is in no distress whatsoever, no matter what he sounds like. That's simply how he communicates. And if he wasn't so darn cute, it wouldn't make any difference. I'd put up with him anyway. Okay, so this side, the first stitch, and primarily, first stitch is mint. It's in the back where it should be because it's going to be a knit stitch. And so it goes over my middle finger and it's at the top on my index. Okay, so we have 5, 10 top stitches. First we have our selvage, which is a knit and a purl. And these colors don't change. Okay, so we have 10 top. Oopsie. Okay, 10 top stitches. We finished these 10. I'm going to go ahead and mark that row, that bottom row off. Okay, so we already finished this one. Okay, so we're on our second row. Going to be going in that direction. Okay, so we did our 10 top. Now we have 2 bottom. Really simple because just so happens 2 bottoms are knit. And now we have 3, 6 tops. And then 2 bottoms again. Bottom yarn. Bottom knit, top purl. And then we should have 10 knits, tops, 10 tops. Top knit, bottom purl. And then our selvage. Both yarns to the back, slip, bring that color over, and then slide it off too. And let me make sure, 2, 4, 6, 8. Ah, I thought I miscounted. I did. So I can show you how to fix things too. Because I'm off by 1. Okay, so we finished this row. Okay. So now, start on this side. Like I said, this pattern is symmetrical, doesn't really make a difference. Nonetheless, good habit to be in. Okay, so we are going to have 9 top. Okay. Now, one thing that will happen, okay, because I haven't been paying attention. Okay. One thing that happens with double knitting that you can adapt to and change is your yarns getting twisted, okay? Now, what I have learned is if I always do my selvages correctly, if I always turn my yarn away, they'll straighten back out. Oops. Been standing here, gotta turn them toward me. And what do I have now? Let's come around. Are we straight yet? Yeah, we're straight enough. We're just crossed by 1. But whenever you have your balls or whatever down in your bag, okay, just turn your work. Just get in the habit, you know, of turning your work in whichever direction, depending on how. I'm trying to remember. I thought it was away, but anyway, whether it's towards you or away, you can keep your yarns untwisted. Personally, it annoys me whenever my yarns become twisted, and then I have to repair that. Okay. So now, like I said, 9 tops. Now in this, now as we go here, this being the top, you'll be able to see why it makes a difference in how you position your yarn, because first stitch is orange. Okay, so that's our top. That's our top yarn on our hands. All right, so we have 9 top stitch. Well, first we have our selvage, and then both to the front, and then 9 tops. Now on our chart, it's a light color. On our chart, it's a light color, but the color tone really doesn't, the tone of it doesn't really matter because it's top and bottom. So light is top, okay, and bottom is dark. So we have 9 tops. I guess I better pay attention to how I count this time and pull out more yarn. What do I have? 2. We need 9. Okay, so what do I have here? What do I have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 1 more. Of course, I know it's incorrect because I miscounted in that first row. Okay, so looking at the chart, pardon me, this next stitch, okay, this next bottom should be right beside, followed up by an underneath the past row being a bottom, which it wasn't because I made a mistake. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this bottom. And here's where I need to, pardon me, here's where I need to make my correction, okay? Because I was supposed to have 2 bottoms on that last row. I just did a bottom here, and I actually, let's get you right, there we go. So these should have been bottoms instead of this one. This needs to be a top, okay? So, got to change these that I've already worked. Really simple to do with double knitting, just take them off. Okay, I pinch the base, and then I just pull the yarn out, like that. I pull both of them out, and then I put my needle through those bottom stitches. I don't want to lose anything, okay? Now, all I have to do, because this should have been in the lighter color, pull it up there. It's a knit, okay? And this one is a purl. And then turn it so the legs are going the right direction. Okay? And so we had 1 bottom, which we've already done. The next 2 need to be tops, different than the ones below, which they are, see? And another top. And see, these were mistakes I made all the way across, so fix these, pinch, pull those out, slide my needle in so I don't drop anything, so I don't rip it out too far, which actually double knitting doesn't come out all that easily, okay? And these should have been tops. And then okay, and then we have our two tops right here, and now we have a bottom right there. And then we have 4 tops. And all of them should match the stitches below. So we'll see if we run across another of my mistakes. Top, 1, top 2, top 3, and top 4. Okay, good, those matched. Okay, the next one is a bottom stitch on top of a top stitch. So, good. Bottom stitch, and the last one was done correctly. Now we've caught up to another mistake because this is going to be a top stitch that should have been over a bottom stitch. Okay, so I need to undo these. Just pull those out front and back. And then pick them up. Oops, I'm splitting you. Sorry about that, buddy. Okay. So that should have been a bottom. So it should have been knit on the knit and top on the purl. Okay, so corrected what I did in the last row. So bottom, bottom on the last row, which these two are. Now they're going to be top, top. And then this is going to be another bottom stitch, but it should be over a top stitch. This was, I think, my last mistake on this row. All right, so let's undo these. Come out, everybody. All right. So I did my bottom, and you should have been over a top. And then repair a purl, push it down and through. Okay, so those are my two bottoms from the last row, just match the tops. This is a bottom going over a top. Bottom yarn. All right. And then we will know if we finish up with 9. So that was 1. Okay, sorry, that wasn't anything. That was the bottom. So we should have 9. 1, 2, 3. Oops, both to the back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Goodness gracious, bravo. Our last two, the selvage stitches, both yarns to the back, slip, bring this one over into the front, and then slip the last stitch. And then which way? Oh, toward me. I was trying to remember which way I needed to go with my yarn to keep them untwisted. All right, so we finished and corrected, did a lot of correcting, and finished that row. But hopefully that gave you some indication about why I hold the yarn the way that I do. Okay. There are also little finger guides, but I found my knuckle works just as well. And then going over that middle finger, what it does is it keeps this one up here. But in keeping the main color, okay, for that first stitch, because if you look at the selvage, let's get the sample over here. This selvage, okay, and then this is the darker selvage. See, so they're a little bit, this is always knit first, and this is always knit first. So you can see a little bit of that one, and blue over here, and then on this one you can see a little bit of the blue. Nonetheless, it's my favorite selvage for double knitting. We will have a subsequent video with our bind off, okay? I usually go for symmetry, and so just like although the chart only has one row under here, and it only has one row above the pattern, I put 3 solid rows underneath, and I put 3 solid rows at the top also. So I hope you're enjoying this. I absolutely love double knitting. I truly do. And I only began it just a few years ago. Um, and in truth, one of the reasons why was I never liked stranded knitting, and double knitting I love, absolutely love. But anyway, um, probably have to be on a separate video doing the bind off. So I will come back and we'll see how your progress is. I hope you're enjoying it. Leave comments if you are learning anything. If you want to continue to learn, if you want to share, comment, subscribe, always welcome. I always respond to comments also. Thank you.